The space station was old and silent, its metal walls covered in dust and rust. The human walked carefully, his boots echoing on the empty floors. He'd been sent to investigate a missing research team. But something felt strange the moment he stepped inside. Lights flickered above him, casting shadows that danced like ghostly figures. The air smelled stale, mixed with something faintly sweet and metallic. He paused, listening, and for a moment he thought he heard soft footsteps. But when he looked, nothing was there. The corridors twisted and turned, some doors hanging on broken hinges. He found notes scattered on the floor, written in a language he did not fully understand. Some of them had drawings of creatures with sharp ears, tails, and glowing eyes. His heart beat faster as he realized he might not be alone. He reached a heavy metal door with a sign that read, "Feral Experiment. Do not open." Curiosity and caution fought inside him, but he could not stop himself from trying to peek inside. When he slid the door open, he froze. Inside the room was a cage, not very large, but strong and imposing, and inside the cage, a creature sat on her haunches, her ears tall and pointed, her eyes bright like liquid gold. Her fur shimmered slightly under the broken lights, and her tail flicked nervously. She looked more like a human than a fox, but also more like a fox than a human. She hissed softly when she saw him, showing small, sharp teeth. He took a cautious step back, holding his hands up. "I'm not going to hurt you," he whispered. But she did not respond. Her eyes studied him carefully, moving with a mixture of fear and curiosity. He noticed that her hands had claws long and thin, and her movements were quick and sudden. Any wrong step could make her attack. He looked around and saw the cage's locking mechanism, heavy and old, but before he could react, the door behind him slammed shut with a loud clang, locking him inside. Panic rose in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. She circled the cage, sniffing the air, twitching her tail. Her ears rotated like radar, and her gaze never left him. He realized she was not just wild. She was intelligent, much smarter than he expected. Hours passed, and the human tried to communicate, pointing to himself, then to her, then making gestures for peace. At first, she only hissed and growled, but slowly she began to mimic some of his movements. He smiled, feeling a small victory, but he knew this was only the beginning. The station made strange noises, metal groaning as if it had a life of its own. Ventilation systems hummed, sending cold gusts of air into the room. The human shivered, and she seemed to notice. Tilting her head, her golden eyes held something almost human, a spark of understanding. Food was limited, just small nutrient packs left on the floor. He tried offering one to her, but she snatched it and ate it quickly. Watching her, he realized she was both cautious and fierce. Every muscle in her body moved with speed and grace. She could kill him if she wanted, but she did not. By night, the lights flickered and went out, leaving him in darkness. He sat against the cage, feeling the cold metal, and whispered, "We have to survive this together." At first, she ignored him, curling in the far corner, but after a while, she slowly moved closer, sniffing his hand, her tail brushing against the metal. The human realized that trust would not come easily. He could not force it, but he could try to earn it, and he had no choice. Because the station was not safe, the walls groaned, and strange shadows moved outside the room. Something in the station watched them, waiting. Morning came. Though the lights were still unreliable, she had not attacked him, and she had not fled. She just sat there, watching him as he ate a small ration. He studied her, learning the way she moved, the way she reacted to sounds, the way her eyes followed him. Every small detail mattered if he wanted to survive. He had to be careful every action, every word. Every time he made a mistake, she could strike. But every time he showed respect, she seemed less tense. They were trapped together, two very different beings, forced into the same space. And the human knew one thing clearly. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. As he lay down for a short rest, he noticed her watching him, her golden eyes softening. Maybe she was curious. Maybe she was lonely. He did not know, but he felt a small spark of hope. If he could survive the night, maybe he could learn her secrets. Maybe they could survive together. The station creaked. The cage rattled slightly, and outside, the wind howled through broken windows. He closed his eyes, but sleep was uneasy. He could feel her presence, alert, waiting, like a predator and companion at the same time. He realized he had entered a world he did not understand, a world where trust was fragile and danger was constant. And deep down, he knew he would have to face many challenges before he could leave this place alive. But one thing was certain. The fox girl was not just a creature to fear. She was a puzzle, a mystery, and perhaps the key to surviving the station. And with that thought, he drifted into a restless sleep, the fox girl sitting nearby, her eyes never leaving his face. The morning light struggled to reach the corners of the cage, broken panels letting in thin beams that danced on the metal floor. The human stretched and rubbed his sore arms, still feeling the tension of being trapped with the fox girl. She had not moved far from her corner, her golden eyes following every twitch, every breath. He decided to test the limits, moving slowly toward her, hands open, showing he meant no harm. She hissed softly, a low sound that made him freeze. He stopped immediately, letting her observe him. The air between them was thick with tension, like a wire stretched too tight. Minutes passed, and the fox girl tilted her head, studying him. Her sharp ears twitched with every sound, the faint hum of the station, the distant groan of metal settling. She circled him slowly, her claws clicking softly on the floor. A shiver ran down his spine as he realized how aware she was of every movement. He noticed her tail flicking with anticipation, and he realized she might be hungry. He grabbed a small ration from his pack and placed it on the floor, stepping back. He waited, heart pounding. Her nose twitched, and with a sudden burst of speed, she grabbed the food and disappeared into her corner, eating cautiously but quickly. She paused for a moment to glance at him, then resumed eating. He smiled, feeling a small victory, but he knew she was not tamed. Not yet, and she would never be completely tame. She was wild, clever, and dangerous. Hours passed, and the human tried to learn her behavior. He watched how she reacted to sounds, to movements, to his voice. She mimicked a gesture he made, a small, slow wave of the hand. Then she stopped, as if realizing the mimicry. Her golden eyes seemed to glow brighter, almost challenging him. Suddenly, a loud clanging echoed through the station, metal doors swinging in the empty halls. He jumped and the fox girl froze, her body tense, every muscle ready to spring. Her tail lashed violently, and she hissed louder. The sound echoed in the small cage, filling the room with tension. He realized that whatever was outside the cage, it scared her too. He whispered softly, "We need to stay calm." And she seemed to listen, her ears twitching at his voice. But just as he began to feel relief, a shadow moved across the broken window, fast and low. Something was watching them, moving closer. The fox girl crouched, ready to attack. Her claws dug into the metal floor, and her eyes never left the shadow. He backed away slowly, not wanting to startle her. Every step he took, she mirrored, her eyes like golden fire. The human understood that survival meant cooperation, even if she did not fully trust him yet. Suddenly, the cage door rattled, a deep vibration running through the metal. He jumped, heart racing, and the fox girl barked, a sharp sound that made his blood run cold. Someone or something was trying to open the cage from the outside. The shadow paused, and then vanished, leaving the room silent again. The human tried to communicate, using gestures and simple words. She watched him, her head tilted, her body still tense. Slowly, she moved closer, her golden eyes locking with his. He held his breath as she circled him once, then twice, sniffing his clothes, his hands, his hair, each motion calculated, careful, but no longer threatening. He realized she was testing him, learning if he was dangerous or if he could be trusted. He nodded slowly, keeping his movements small. The fox girl stopped, crouching low to the floor, her tail brushing against his leg for the first time. A small spark of connection formed, fragile but real. Hours passed like this, two beings sharing space without speaking, understanding forming through gestures, glances, and small movements. And then the station shook, a sudden quake running to the floors and walls. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the lights flickered violently. The fox girl reacted immediately, her claws digging into the floor, her body pressed close to his, and he felt her warmth, a strange comfort in the chaos. He realized she was protecting him, even though she'd been wild and unpredictable just hours ago. The quake stopped as suddenly as it began, leaving silence and debris. They sat together, both alert, both aware that danger could return at any moment. He knew the station was not safe, and that the fox girl had not yet revealed all of her strength. By night, he tried to rest again, sitting against the cage wall, her golden eyes still on him. watching every twitch. Every sound made her ears rotate, scanning for threats. And he realized that in this strange, dangerous world, trust was not given lightly. It was earned through action, patience, and respect. He drifted into an uneasy sleep, feeling the fox girl close, aware of his presence. A bond was forming, small but undeniable. The station creaked, shadows moved, and outside, the unknown waited. And the human knew, deep in his mind, that the days ahead would test them both, that survival would demand courage, intelligence, and a bond stronger than fear. And so, the first real connection began, fragile, uncertain, but real. The station was quiet again, but the silence felt heavier than before. The human sat against the cage wall, rubbing his sore arms, feeling the tension of hours spent with the fox girl. She had moved closer now, sitting just a few feet away, her tail flicking softly, her golden eyes alert, watching every sound. He knew he had to keep moving, exploring the room for anything useful. He carefully inspected the broken panels, looking for tools, wires, anything that could help him survive or escape. She followed him with sharp, silent steps, her claws barely making a sound, each movement calculated, precise, like a predator assessing its prey and its companion at the same time. He found a small supply box tucked behind a broken console. Inside, there were rations, water packs, and a small toolkit. His heart lifted at the sight, but he knew it was not enough. Not enough to survive if something attacked. He glanced at the fox girl, who crouched low, sniffing the air, her ears twitching constantly. Suddenly, a deep rumble shook the station, making dust fall from the ceiling. The fox girl sprang into motion, her body low and fast. She pressed herself against him as if saying, "Stay close." He realized she was more than instinct. She understood danger. She could sense threats before he could. The human nodded, understanding the unspoken warning. They moved cautiously to the corner of the room, where a small vent led to another section. He tried to open it, but the metal was stuck. The fox girl hissed, clawing at the vent, her strength surprising him. Together, they pried it open, creating a small escape route. Hours turned into a tense game of survival. They rationed a small supply of food carefully. Each bite measured, each sound in the station made their muscles tense. Every shadow became a potential threat, and every flickering light a signal of danger. The human learned to watch her, to follow her instincts, and to move when she moved. She led him to a section of the station with broken equipment, showing him hidden dangers, small traps left behind by the researchers. He realized the station was a testing ground, full of experiments not meant to survive. Each trap could kill them. Each corner could hide a predator, and she knew it all, guiding him with subtle gestures and sharp looks. At night, he tried again to communicate, pointing to the food, to the vent, to himself. She mimicked some of his gestures, then crouched close to him, almost like a warning. "We need to move carefully." Her body language seemed to say. He shivered, realizing he was learning from her as much as she might be learning from him. A sudden alarm blared through the station, loud and piercing. Metal screeched as panels shifted and doors slammed. The fox girl leapt into action, pressing him to the floor, her claws digging into metal. Her golden eyes glowed in the flickering lights, and he saw a side of her he had never seen before, fierce, unstoppable, and protective. Something moved outside the cage, fast and silent. He could feel it, the station vibrating slightly under its weight. His heart pounded, and he realized that if she had not been there, he would already be hurt. The fox girl growled softly, low and threatening, as if warning the unknown intruder, whatever it was. It stopped for a moment, then vanished, leaving only tension behind. They waited in silence, their breathing slow but synchronized. The human understood that trust was forming slowly through shared danger. She was no longer just a wild creature. She was a companion, a protector, and perhaps a friend. As they settled for a brief rest, he noticed her watching him with something almost human in her eyes, curiosity, caution, and a spark of connection that had not been there before. He felt a strange comfort in her presence, though the danger had not passed, and the station seemed alive with hidden threats. Morning came, bringing weak light and cold air through the broken windows. They moved together to explore another section, hoping for more supplies. Each step was careful, measured, the human following her lead, learning her patterns, watching for any sudden movements. They passed broken labs, shattered consoles, and strange symbols on the walls, remnants of experiments long abandoned. experiments that had not ended well. Suddenly, a door behind them banged loudly, making both of them jump. She hissed sharply, claws extended, eyes wide, ready to strike. The human froze, heart racing, then realized it was only a loose panel swinging in the wind. But even in relief, he understood how fragile their survival was, how easily everything could turn deadly. By the end of the day, they had learned to share space, to cooperate in small ways. The fox girl no longer hissed constantly, and had stopped moving recklessly. Each had adapted to the other, forming a delicate bond born of necessity. But the station still had secrets, shadows in corners, whispers in the metal, unknown creatures and dangers that could strike at any moment. And the human knew that surviving together would mean facing these threats side by side, trusting each other completely. As he lay down again, exhausted but alert, he felt her presence close, almost protective, her golden eyes never leaving him. A silent promise, a bond formed in the heart of danger, and he realized that surviving the station would not just be about escaping, but about understanding, learning, and trusting the feral fox girl beside him. The night stretched long, full of tension, unknown sounds, and quiet companionship, and deep inside he knew that tomorrow would bring even greater challenges. Testing both their courage, the station seemed quieter that morning, but the human knew silence could be the deadliest sound. He stretched his stiff muscles and glanced at the fox girl, who was sitting alert, tail curling around her feet. Her golden eyes tracked every flicker of light, every movement, and even the smallest shadow made her. Ears twitch. He held out a small water pack, careful not to make sudden movements. She sniffed it, then took it gently in her claws, drinking carefully. Watching her, he felt a strange connection, fragile but real. Their bond was growing, not through words, but through gestures, shared survival, and mutual understanding. The human decided to explore a part of the station they had not yet entered. Broken corridors led to shattered labs, strange symbols painted in red and blue on walls, equipment that hummed faintly despite the damage. He moved slowly, and she followed silently, alert, her presence almost comforting, but still wild and unpredictable. Suddenly, a door in the distance banged violently, making them both jump. The fox girl crouched low, claws extended, tail flicking sharply, and eyes glowed with a fierce intensity. Something was moving outside, something large and powerful. The human froze, feeling panic rising, but she nudged him gently, signaling him to stay low. They pressed against the wall, waiting, listening, every heartbeat loud in the quiet corridor. The shadow passed, fast and silent, leaving only the echo of its movement. He realized the fox girl was not just protecting herself, she was protecting him, and he felt a warmth of trust bloom in his chest. Hours passed in careful exploration. They found supplies, small ration packs, water, and even a first aid kit. But the real treasure was the way they moved together, silent communication in gestures, glances, and small touches. He handed her a ration, and for the first time, she did not snatch it greedily, but accepted it calmly, almost like sharing. Night came, and the lights flickered weakly, casting long shadows that seemed to move on their own. He tried to rest, leaning against a wall, but the fox girl stayed alert, sitting close by, her golden eyes scanning every shadow. Every soft sound made her ears rotate, and he realized she could hear far better than him, detecting threats he could not. Suddenly, a faint scratching sound echoed from the vent above. Her body tensed immediately, claws ready, tail flicking, eyes narrowed. The human froze, realizing the danger, but she did not attack him. She crouched low, ready to strike whatever came, and he understood that she had learned to trust enough to protect him, even in the deadliest moments. Minutes felt like hours. The scratching stopped, and silence returned, but the tension remained, a constant reminder that the station held dangers beyond their understanding. The human reached out slowly, letting his hand brush against her fur, and she did not recoil, only flicked her ears slightly, and he felt the tiny spark of trust grow stronger. Over the next few hours, small moments built their bond. She mimicked his gestures, nudged him gently, even allowed him to fix a broken panel while she watched, alert for any danger, and he began to understand her behavior, noticing her subtle signs, the way she tilted her head, the way her tail flicked, the way her eyes followed every movement. By the end of the night, he could feel something new between them, a fragile understanding. Not yet friendship, but the first step toward it, And in a place filled with danger, fear, and shadows, that connection felt like a lifeline. As he laid down for a short rest, he noticed her shift closer, not threatening, not aggressive, but calm, almost protective. Her golden eyes held a strange softness, and he felt a moment of peace, even in the dark, in the broken station. They were no longer just human and fox girl, but companions learning to trust one another. Outside, the station groaned, and shadows moved along the walls, reminding him that their journey had only just begun. The fox girl stirred slightly, brushing her tail against his arm, a silent gesture of acceptance, and he realized that survival was no longer only about food, safety, or escape, but about understanding, cooperation, and the bond forming in the heart of danger. And deep down, he knew the coming days would test that bond, push it to the limits, and show them both how strong, wild, and unstoppable they could be together, and the fragile trust that had begun to grow between them. The human studied the cage door for what felt like hours. His hands traced the cold metal, trying to understand the lock. The fox girl sat beside him, alert, ears twitching at every faint sound. Her golden eyes followed him closely, almost as if she were judging his every move. He realized they could not survive here forever. The station was dangerous, unstable, and alive with unknown threats. Something had to be done. He whispered softly, "We need to get out," and she responded with a low growl, her tail flicking sharply, like a warning or maybe agreement. He could not tell, using the toolkit they had found. He began working on the lock, slowly, carefully, aware that one wrong move could trigger an alarm or worse. The fox girl circled the cage, her claws scraping lightly against the floor, her ears rotating, listening to sound beyond his perception. He felt a strange comfort knowing she was there, protecting him even while he tried to escape. Hours passed, and sweat ran down his forehead. Every click of the tools made him tense. The fox girl crouched low, her eyes glowing faintly in the dim light. Suddenly, a panel in the wall rattled and both froze. Something or someone was moving outside. The human held his breath, heart pounding, and she pressed close, body tense, ready to strike. The shadow passed, fast and silent, leaving only a trail of dust. The human exhaled slowly, and she relaxed slightly. But the warning was clear. The station was not empty, and they were being watched. Finally, with one last careful twist, the lock clicked. The cage door creaked open slowly, and he froze, expecting attack. But she did not strike. Instead, she stepped back, watching him carefully, waiting, assessing. His heart raced, and he realized that she trusted him enough to leave the cage. Together, they moved cautiously through the broken corridors, each step careful, measured, every sound analyzed. The fox girl led the way, showing him hidden dangers, unstable floors, and sharp edges. Her senses were incredible, and he followed closely, learning to trust her guidance. They reached a corridor filled with debris, fallen panels, and broken equipment. One wrong step could send metal falling, crushing them both. She leapt across gaps with agility that made him gasp, then waited patiently for him, her golden eyes glowing in the dark. He followed, moving carefully, feeling her presence as a silent shield beside him. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed from above. Dust rained down, and metal twisted with a scream. He stumbled, and she lunged to steady him, claws digging into the floor, tail brushing his arm, like a lifeline, guiding him through danger. He realized their survival depended on perfect coordination, trust, and instinct. Hours passed as they navigated the station, small ration packs keeping her energy up. Every corner could hide a trap. Every shadow could hide an enemy. The fox girl paused often, sniffing the air, ears rotating, her body tense. Alert, he learned to follow her signs, the subtle movements that warned of unseen danger. Finally, they reached a large metal door, one that seemed to lead to another section of the station. He tried opening it, but it was stuck fast. Panic rose, and he whispered softly, "We can do this." She circled the door, claw at weak points, pushing metal with her strength, and slowly, inch by inch, the door shifted, creating a small opening. They squeezed through, moving into the next area. The station felt different here, darker, colder, more alive. Strange sounds echoed, humming and whispering through broken vents. The fox girl crouched low, scanning, listening, moving like a shadow beside him. Suddenly, a movement caught his eye. A large shape, indistinct but fast, passed across into the corridor. The fox girl growled, hissing sharply, claws extended, ready to attack. He froze, heart hammering, and she lunged, leaping at the shadow, disappearing into it with incredible speed. He ran after her, dodging broken panels and twisted metal. The sounds of struggle echoed down the corridor. Then silence, heavy and tense. He reached the corner and saw her standing tall, golden eyes glowing, shadow retreating, defeated, or maybe just watching, waiting. He could not tell, breathing hard. He realized the station was more dangerous than he had imagined, but the fox girl stayed close, tail brushing his leg, claws retracting, body relaxed now, almost detective. They had survived the first real test, but the station still held secrets, traps, and unknown creatures. As they rested briefly, he offered her a ration, and she accepted calmly. No aggression, only a small spark of trust and understanding. He realized that survival was no longer about him alone, but about them together, navigating danger, relying on each other, learning each other, and deep in his mind, he knew the escape was only the beginning, that the real challenge was yet to come, that the station still held dangers far greater than anything they had faced, and yet, for the first time, he felt hope, knowing that he was not alone. With the fox girl at his side, alert, protective, and wild, he understood that they could face anything if they moved together. The station was darker than ever as they moved to the narrow corridors, shadows stretching like long fingers, whispered with every metallic creak. The human's heart pounded in his chest, every step heavy with caution. The fox girl was ahead, alert, tail low but moving with purpose, golden eyes scanning every corner. He had learned to trust her instincts now, following silently, letting her lead. But cold dread filled him, the kind that made the hair on his neck stand. They had escaped the cage, survived traps, and avoided danger. Yet he felt the station itself was alive, watching, waiting, and hungry. A low rumble echoed through the floor, vibrations running up his legs. The fox girl crouched low, ears rotating, growling softly. Something big was moving in the shadows, something that did not belong, something that had been waiting for intruders like them. Suddenly, a shriek tore through the corridor, high-pitched and alien. The human froze, and she hissed sharply, claws digging into the floor, body tense and ready to strike. Shapes moved in the dark, twisting and fast, creatures that seemed to crawl along the walls and ceiling, eyes glowing faintly red, teeth sharp and dripping. They were not human, not fox girl, not anything he'd ever imagined. He grabbed her arm gently, whispering, "We stay together," and she responded with a low growl, ready, fierce, and protective. She led him through a side passage, weaving between shadows, moving silently like a predator herself. Each step felt like walking on the edge of a blade. The creatures followed, scratching and clawing at the walls, hunting them. They entered a wide chamber, broken lights flickering, revealing strange machinery, wires sparking and flickering, liquids leaking from unknown containers. The fox girl crouched low, listening, and then darted to a console, her claws pressing buttons, her golden eyes focused. She seemed to understand the station in a way he could not, guiding him, showing him which paths were safe. A creature lunged from the ceiling, its claws slashing, and he barely dodged, heart racing. She struck faster, faster than anything human could, claws extended, knocking it back in the shadows. His stomach churned with fear and awe, realizing she was not just wild. She was lethal, trained for survival, perfectly adapted to this deadly place. They moved again, faster now, dodging falling debris, leaping over broken panels. The creatures always close behind. He felt the cold sweat run down his face as he struggled to keep up. Yet every time he looked at her, he felt a strange reassurance. She had him. She was with him, and she would not let him die if she could prevent it. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time lost meaning in the chaos. They reached a corridor that ended in a large hatch. The fox girl paused, sniffing the air, then signaled him forward. She darted ahead first, eyes glowing, body low and ready, and he followed cautiously, holding his breath. The creatures were relentless, claws scraping, shrieks echoing, chasing him like shadows that could never be outrun. He felt panic rising, but the fox girl pressed him forward, guiding him through twists and turns, dodging traps, broken wires, and pools of strange liquid. Their bond became survival instinct, perfect synchronization born necessity. Finally, they reached a sealed room, the hatch locking behind them with a hiss, Silence, heavy and thick, filled the space, broken vents and flickering lights the only signs of the chaos they had escaped. The fox girl crouched, breathing hard, but calm now, tail brushing against his leg, eyes softening slightly, showing a spark of relief. He realized they had survived the first encounter with the station's true threat, but he knew this was only temporary. The creatures would not give up, and the station itself seemed to anticipate their every move. And yet, in the darkness, as he watched the fox girl's golden eyes glow, he felt something he had not felt before. Hope, fragile but real. Together, they had faced death, terror, and the unknown, and he understood that surviving the station was no longer just about avoiding traps or creatures. It was about trust, instinct, and the bond they had forged in fire and fear. The fox girl shifted closer, brushing against him almost protectively, a gesture that spoke louder than words. He nodded silently, understanding that their fight was far from over, but at least now they were not alone. Outside, shadows moved, the station groaned, and the red eyes of unseen predators watched, waiting. The human tightened his grip on the small toolkit, and she crouched low beside him, golden eyes alert, claws ready, bodies tense and synchronized. And deep inside, he knew the final test was coming, that survival would demand everything they had learned, everything they could do. And yet, for the first time, he did not feel fear alone. He felt determination, courage, and a fragile trust that could mean the difference between life and death. The final corridor stretched before them, dark and twisted, broken lights flickering faintly, shadows stretching like fingers across the walls. The human and the fox girl moved together, alert, hearts pounding, aware that danger could strike at any moment. They had faced traps, creatures, and the station itself, and now they were close to the outer hatch. The fox girl led the way, her golden eyes glowing softly in the dim light, ears twitching at every sound, tail low but moving with purpose. A sudden screech echoed from behind. The creatures still hunting, relentless, but she growled, fierce and protective, her claws striking with deadly precision, holding them off just long enough for him to move forward. He sprinted beside her, dodging falling panels, slipping over twisted metal, adrenaline driving him forward. Finally, they reached the hatch, sealed but old. It required strength and focus to open. He pushed and pulled, straining against the rusted metal, and she pressed beside him, her body lending strength, claws digging in, tail whipping with power. Together, they forced it open, the cold air of the outside world rushing in. They stepped out onto a platform overlooking the dark expanse of space, the station looming behind them, broken, dangerous, alive with shadows. But for the first time, they were free, if only for a moment. The fox girl crouched beside him, breathing hard, tail wrapping around her feet, golden eyes soft, almost human. He knelt beside her, offering a ration, and she accepted calmly, a silent understanding passing between them. Months of fear, danger, and survival had forged a bond that words could not describe in this vast, cold universe. They found trust, courage, and companionship. As he leaned back against the metal railing, exhausted, he realized she was watching him closely, breathing slowing, body relaxed, but then, almost without warning, she climbed onto his chest, curling up, tail wrapping around him, golden eyes closing slowly, asleep, completely at ease. He froze for a moment, feeling the warmth of her body, realizing the trust she had given him. In a world of danger, she had chosen him as a companion, protector, and friend. Her presence was calm, reassuring, and strangely comforting. Even after days of chaos, fear, and terror, this small gesture carried more meaning than anything else could. He whispered softly, "We made it," and she twitched her ears, as if answering. The stars shone faintly through the station's broken panels, casting light across their forms. The human allowed himself a moment to breathe, to rest, knowing the ordeal had ended, at least for now.